Hello and welcome back to the Entertainment Vortex. Today we were at Brendan Theaters watching Halloween. This is one that I was highly anticipating, also a little worried about. The concept of there being another Halloween movie at this point in time, especially one that kind of takes away some of the previous lore, tries to start anew just with the base model that's set up with the first movie, was an interesting concept. As I've said in previous reviews, especially some of the horror films that have been done by comedic actors, as far as in producing roles, writing roles, even direction, they've been knocking it out of the park recently. So when I saw that this was an idea that was crafted by a group of people, but the one name that stands out is Danny McBride, I was intrigued. And after anticipating this movie coming out for a long period of time, I can say for sure that I wasn't disappointed. I came in and I tried to keep my expectations as low as possible, just because I was genuinely worried. It wasn't something where I wanted one of my favorite franchises to be torn to pieces, or I wanted it to be some kind of slapstick comedy. I wanted it to be scary. I wanted Michael Myers to haunt my nightmares for the next few weeks. I can tell you for sure, this movie packs the scares. It's not as over-the-top scary as some of your ridiculous horror films. It is a slasher film at heart, but it definitely has some jump scares, some really, really good tension building. That's something that I definitely appreciate as a moviegoer.
Well, if you count them, this is the 5th Halloween timeline. I won't go into detail, but if you're curious about that, there are other videos on YouTube to talk about how many timelines there are in this Halloween franchise. This is now being considered the true sequel to the 1978 classic by John Carpenter, who, by the way, returns to produce and co-write the music for this film. My favorite thing about this film, I'm going to start right off, is how it pays homage to the original. This movie returns to form what made the first movie so popular in the first place. Instead of delving into the mythology and the lore of what drives Michael, it's all about the scares. It's all about the mystery of the boogeyman. They do address the questions, like what does drive Michael? What does he do it randomly, or does he have a grand master plan? Is he taking orders from some mystical realm? Who knows? Those are the questions that actually get brought. Though they're never answered, I appreciate that they at least ask the questions and not pretend to just accept it for what it is. What's amazing, though, is how this film only cost $10 million to make. That's only $7.5 million more than Halloween 2 back in 1981. Yes, that Halloween 2, not the Rob Zombie gore fest of a shit movie. The new score, in addition to the Halloween theme, is really awesome. A great modernization. They use the same theme, but they modernize it along with some additional new scores that I really love. I'll definitely buy the soundtrack to this.
I really appreciated the way that they used cinematography to kind of help tell the story. A lot of the scenes were shot in a way that was just super interesting and eye-catching. And I love the way that they use lighting, from cars, from houses. They used lighting in a specific way that kind of showed differences about the characters, and I really, really, really liked that. The acting performances were pretty stellar for the most part. I really, really enjoy seeing Jamie Lee Curtis on camera. She's perfect in that role, and I really like the arc of her character that they chose to take. And she's got this really badass grit to her, and I really, really, really enjoyed it. Judy Greer was kind of back and forth for me. There were a couple of scenes where it felt a little weird, but I could also tell that some of that may have been coaching, or some of that may have been just the way that she was directed as far as how she was supposed to portray certain aspects of that character. And some of it didn't work as well as others, but she definitely had some great moments in the movie as well. She stood out when she was on screen. It's just some of the choices I didn't feel like were as great as Jamie Lee Curtis's, but it's hard to stand up to that. And I feel like when she was asked to step up to the plate, she did a pretty solid job.
And again, like the original Halloween, this movie does not rely on gore. It relies on suspense, drama, jump scares, and the lighting, as JB puts it, really played a huge elemental factor in the jump scares. Jamie Lee Curtis gives a riveting performance in her latest role as Laurie Strode. I don't know the names of much of the other actors or actresses. Jamie Lee Curtis is pretty much the only one I know of. However, I know that Nick Castle, who played the Shape in the original Halloween film, reprised his role for some of the scenes. If you pay close enough attention, if you're a Halloween fan, you'll notice some Easter eggs that allude to the other Halloween sequels. H2O, Halloween 2. Thankfully, none allude to the Rob Zombie films. Though, yeah. Well, we won't even go there. Should they make a sequel to this movie? I'd go see it probably if they do.
This movie doesn't bring too much heavy gore. There are some moments where it's like, oh dang, that's a gnarly kill. I really like that. It's not something that I inherently am like, for sure there has to be good kills, there has to be interesting gore. It's not something that will completely turn me away from a movie. It's not there. But if you're going into a Halloween movie, you're expecting some of that. You're expecting some interesting ideas and some really gruesome parts. And this definitely has that. The way that they shot those scenes and the way that they used, from what it looked like, the majority of it being practical effects, it shows up really well on screen. I love when filmmakers try to keep it practical. This movie definitely has some twists and turns. It has a lot of little Easter eggs if you're paying attention. So keep an eye out. There are going to be little nods here and there to the original and also to some of the other sequels that are being kind of dashed to the rocks off to the side as well. There are these little pot shots and little interesting pieces that you can pull from that overall lore that doesn't technically exist in this universe anymore. So those are something, like I said, if you're a big fan of this franchise, you'll pick up on a lot of those things. The most interesting part of this film for me, like I said, is the duality between the Shape and between Stroud. So having this kind of counterbalance between each other, and there's like a message about this movie, essentially, that, you know, there's a fine line between a victim and an attacker, and that there are this ebb and flow that exists between the two. I really appreciated that it was an interesting concept, and the way that they presented it and the way that it was acted, I felt was phenomenal. They did a great job, and they just had, like I said, little bits and pieces that just kind of like little aha moments that I really appreciated.
Out of 10, I'm going to give this an 8.5. It has its moments of cliche. You know, some people do stupid things when they're scared. They go into a dark corner or a dark alley, check out a strange sound, and everybody knows that. But other than that, I really enjoyed watching this film. My favorite thing of this entire movie was the title sequence. A direct continuation homage to the original Halloween title sequence. Pumpkins involved, the Halloween themes involved. Danny McBride would never have guessed that he could write such scary, serious stuff for being a comedian, both as a writer and as an actor. So, props to you, Danny McBride. Good job.
Overall, I really enjoyed this outing. I think that if they decide to continue the story, because I don't know for sure if that's ever going to be a plan, or if there's even room for that based on the ending. Like I said, you'll have to go see that for yourself. But if they do decide to continue to make sequels, if they move in this line as far as the story is concerned, I'll be there. I'm ready to watch it. Overall, I would give this movie an 8 out of 10. Like I said, it's not perfect. There are a couple things I rolled my eyes at, but they weren't things that completely removed me from the movie, and I definitely want to see it again to see if there are things that I missed.
If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. We give you multiple videos every single week. And we have t-shirts available if you're interested in those as well. Those are available down in the description below. We hope you'll follow us into the Vortex. We'll see you next time.